Cool. Good, I'm glad.
And with that, hello everyone. It is Wednesday, September 26th, 2018. Welcome to episode 15 of Bliss Point, a podcast and website serving up music discussion, news, show and album reviews, and more. My name is George Kaufman, as you know by now, and I am joined by my lovely co-hosts Billy Gatewood.
Hello.
And Mr. Paul Kolb.
Hi.
Love it. Moving right along. Jump into what we've been listening to. And that encompasses the best, worst, good, noteworthy, mediocre, important, and consequential, sometimes album-related shows, singles, and new releases of the week. First, let's start out with some shows. Mr. Billy, you saw Wonder Years.
I did.
At the Howard Theater.
Yeah, so saw Wonder Years at Howard Theater, which was their first time ever in D.C. in their, 13, 14, 15 years as a band?
Really?
First time in D.C.
Really? That's kind of insane.
Yeah, right?
I heard you were going to be there.
I'm very surprised.
Yeah, so they were doing basically a short tour and stopping in a bunch of cities that they feel they've neglected over the years.
Cool.
They've played in Baltimore a bunch, but they played at Howard Theater, and I think part of the reason they wanted to play at Howard Theater was because it is, a historic place in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they chose that venue for a reason.
Hey.
Even though it was a little bigger than probably what they could fill.
I'm surprised that they didn't do 9:30, honestly.
Right. I'm not even sure they could fill 9:30.
Really?
Yeah, it was only maybe 40 to 50% full.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird. I thought they were kind of big.
They are pretty. They're like pretty much the kings of the new emo wave.
Yeah. At least the forefathers.
Yeah.
Right?
But I guess I don't know if it's just the DC scene isn't all that into it.
Fair.
But even when they play in Baltimore, they don't sell out Ramshead and stuff like that.
Yeah, Ramsad's really big.
It is. It holds a lot more people than you think.
Yeah. I would have figured they'd play Soundstage.
Yeah, Soundstage or something like that, right? So yeah, I mean, it was a really solid show. Super Whatever and Hot Mulligan opened.
Okay.
Both put on good sets.
I thought you said it was a super good show. It was Super Whatever. And I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a terrible great band name.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Hot Mulligan.
Hot Mulligan's always good.
Yeah.
They're
They were very good.
Yeah, the little kids in Hot Mulligan because they look like they're 15.
I'm sure they are. 15.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
some of them aren't, but
they're pretty young. But yeah, they were solid. Just like last time we saw them. Super Whatever I'd listened to for the last year or so. Was a fan of their EP. Not as much of a fan of their new album, but was pleasantly surprised. They played a lot from their older stuff.
How long did Wonder Years play for?
Man, they played for quite a while. Probably like an hour and 20, hour and 30.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a lot for any real band.
Yeah, exactly. And he was, the last half hour of the set, he was acting like his voice was going to go at any second, but he kept going.
And it's any wonder, because I've listened to some of their stuff, and he, the way he sings sounds like it strains his voice constantly.
Yeah.
So I totally believe that.
Yeah, and I think it does. But yeah, so it was a good show.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then you saw Bless the Fall.
And then I saw Bless the Fall.
Where did you see Bless the Fall?
At Ramshead. No, not Ramshead. At Soundstage.
Oh,
in Baltimore. Okay. We were talking about both of them.
Who opened for Bless the Fall?
I don't know, because I didn't go. Maggie and I went, so they had 4 openers.
Oh my God.
And they were all garbage openers.
That's a metalcore show.
Wow.
Yeah, no, but
so strong.
They were garbage openers. Openers that I figured would have opened for Rob Zombie or one of those shows I went to.
Again, the Rob Zombie hate.
Or what was the other show I went to? I don't remember.
Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah, like a band that would open for them.
Yep.
So Maggie and I went out to Baltimore, and we were like, okay, they'll probably go on at 8:45, 9-ish, it'll be good. So we look up set times. They didn't go on to 9:45, and we were there at 6:30.
What day of the week was this?
It was a Wednesday night or something.
Fuck that. Nope.
And so we were like, man, what are we gonna do? So we went to the Orioles game. And pre-gamed at the Orioles game.
Nice.
Because what else would you do before a metal show?
Sure.
So we got to go to the Orioles game.
Nice.
Walked in as soon as the first song started. Perfect timing.
Okay.
They put on a great set. They played for about an hour. Played everything I could want.
Nice.
A much heavier set than I was expecting.
Sure.
It was.
Wouldn't they? I mean, I'm not familiar with their stuff outside of that album that we listened to this year. I would assume that they would always want to play their heavy stuff.
Right.
Like
a lot of
crowd probably, it seems like they would only want the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, it was a really good mix. It comes off as a lot heavier live too.
Okay.
Their older albums are pretty heavy.
That's cool.
And it comes off as real heavy live. So it was everything I've been wanting for
How
the
was
last
Soundstage?
Good.
Okay. I still have not been. I wanted to go several times, but just never able to.
It does not have a great floor for circle pits.
Oh boy,
because they just kept calling for circle pits, and it's just this slick, wet floor, and just every time it's just people just sliding out. I was just waiting for somebody to take out my knees. Oh my gosh, it was a mess.
ACL at the middle show.
Yeah, seriously.
I love it.
But yeah, both shows were awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I love it. Paul, we went to go see.
Oh, we went to go see Toe.
Our favorite appendage, Mr. Toe, fresh from Japan. I think this is the start of their tour. And I hopped on these tickets because I don't think they tour here like ever. And
that's why I was psyched to go.
I was very, very excited to go. What'd you think?
It was excellent. Everything I wanted out of it. To clarify,
everything that
they are a band, in fact, and not a person.
Yes,
with a surname Toe.
Toe is a band, pretty large band actually.
What?
Like 4 or 5 people, ish. Yeah, 1, 2.
Yeah, 5-piece.
Yeah.
Because they have a keys player somewhere tucked in there.
Yes, they do.
But Japanese post rock, kind of my main jam.
Yeah,
really love it. A lot of kind of a more mathy sound.
Super tight too, and just. I think my only complaint was and this was more of a venue issue than a band issue, but the vocals were like, you could not hear the vocals at all. You could hear the instrumentation just fine, which was, I guess, the main thing that you go for. When you want to see Toe anyways, but yeah, they played everything that I wanted them to. I didn't expect them to play everything that I wanted them to, but they did.
Yeah, and the band's just really tight. Like every section. If you like that kind of more technical playing, I'd recommend checking them out. Yeah, I'd never been to Black Cat before. After many ill-fated attempts,
right. Yeah,
sound was decent.
Yeah, it's a neat little venue. It is a DC historic landmark that is. I just found out recently that they're actually shutting down the bottom half, so it's just going to be the top half, which is interesting. But anyway, yeah,
I learned a lot watching the people in that crowd.
Oh God, yeah, that was a weird crowd. That was the show where they had a bunch of people like talking.
Yeah, so the band's
songs.
from Japan, and they, their frontman, he doesn't have the best English.
Yeah,
so he's just doing his best to hype the crowd and say hello and thank people for coming out. And people are talking over him. And this would be like after their encore, people just had to hear more, but then they start a ballad and everyone starts talking over them.
Yeah, it's fucking shitty.
Very much a Black Cat thing.
Shitty people.
That's
that venue in general. It's just
interesting.
Everybody talks through everything, and I don't know if it's the acoustics that make it sound that much louder. But gosh,
I don't, because when I saw Pedro, I mean, granted, I was like maybe 2 people back from the front. There wasn't any talking.
Really?
But it could have been because I was up front.
Yeah.
And they're a quieter band, so I don't know.
There's also, and this is going to make me sound like a bully if you haven't seen it yourself, but there's something very funny about like the awkward, geeky kind of dancing paired with such a technical kind of rhythm breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of times everyone loses that 4 on the floor, and you just see them kind of lose it, but keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway,
they were very, very good.
Really fortunate to see the show. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, I would love to see them next time they come back, whenever that will be. And I took my wife, Sarah, to go see the Punch Brothers. One of my favorite live bands. Maybe my favorite, especially after this time. Because I love them so much, I spent money to kind of see them do like a pre-show kind of thing, and that was really cool. They did like a quick Q&A and came out, and if you're unfamiliar, Punch Brothers is like a bluegrass pop fusion kind of band, and when they play live, they play with 2 microphones. There's little to no amplification at all. These guys are fucking professionals when it comes to music and how to play their instruments and when to kind of back up off the microphone and when to allow somebody else to come to the microphone, and just the best sounding show that I've ever been to. Like everything was perfect. Clarity was insane. Vocal harmonies, like just perfect.
And that was at the Anthem?
It was at the Anthem, yeah.
Nice.
Did they have an opener?
They did. They had an opener. I'm terrible for forgetting her name. Very, very talented guitarist. It was just a girl who sang and played guitar. And I remember thinking that the instrumentals were super, super cool, and she was doing some pretty complex guitar lines while singing, but it just kind of felt empty without a backing band. So I thought that was kind of an interesting choice for such a large venue. But hey, the Punch Brothers themselves were very, very good. They played for an hour and a half. Played a lot of their new stuff, which is good, but I like their old stuff a lot better. But it was so good. They're very, very good. I would love to just get a group, even if people are unfamiliar with them, to just go see them because they're so much fun. It's a very, very cool show. Super respectful too, like considering how quiet the stage is with no live instruments. That audience was dead silent in between songs and allowing them to talk and to play, and you could hear every note. It was awesome. Very, very cool experience. Next up, we have Death Cab. Or I should say, this is our singles. We have a Frightened Rabbit cover, Backwards Walk by Death Cab for Cutie. And the Frightened Rabbit singer, Scott Hutcherson, tragically passed away in May. And Death Cab apparently loves Frightened Rabbit. And if you're unfamiliar with Frightened Rabbit, you should definitely go check them out. But this cover I thought was really good. They did it for their Spotify sessions, so it was live. But what did you guys think?
See, Billy, I've been trying to explain this to you. Something sad happened, and their music was good.
Oh,
Do you
interesting.
understand the relationship?
Interesting. That's Death
No,
Cab? Is that Death Cab?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think
No, I do really like it.
I think what Paul's getting at is that even if they did covers of sad songs,
As long as it's sad music,
for
it's good
the
Death
rest
Cab?
of their career,
Right.
I think I'd be happier with that
Right.
than whatever trash they're putting out.
Gotcha. We're off to a great start.
Anyway, Death Cab, Backwards Walk, very, very good cover.
It is good. It's really good.
Next up, we listened to 2 Lana Del Rey tracks, but we're going to talk about Venice, Bitch by Lana Del Rey.
So sassy.
The very Lana Del Rey title. It's got some very Lana Del Rey lyrics. It is a 10-minute epic. Little bit of a doozy towards the end.
With an epic, like,
Epic doozy,
pitch
or-
shifting solo.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Oh my gosh, that pitch shifting. Jesus.
And it's just jarring because the whole track, beautiful vibe.
Yeah, like the first 4 minutes while she's singing are excellent. I think some of the best stuff she's put out in a long time. So I'm curious to see where she goes with this direction. It's kind of doing the darker, would you say darker singer-songwriter?
Yeah, just
direction?
kind of like dark haunting, like singer-songwriter vibe.
Yeah,
that she seems
That's
to
not
be
what
going
she's
for.
been doing.
I mean,
it is, but
this seems to be like a not exactly Janis Joplin, but like that era
yeah,
of singer-songwriter.
it's even
kinda
more
style.
stripped down and just yeah.
Absolutely. Less about drugs and more about like
True.
like freedom and I don't know, relationships. I don't know.
Hey, it sounds good.
Yeah, it does. And that's all that matters. Next, you know the man. We've talked about him plenty of times. But actually back with another song worth talking about. Eminem, KILLSHOT.
Yeah.
Where he... I don't know if anyone's done a welfare check on MGK since this track came out. Because the dude might be dead.
You hear that guy?
The dude might be dead. Honestly.
This track murdered him.
It's fucking boom, 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 boom.
And publicity is
Fucking
publicity, but it's kind of like, what did you expect would happen?
And I half expected Eminem to not say anything because while MGK's track was fine, I thought he did a good job with what he had. It, like, the dude is shit on Eminem's shoe.
Right.
Like, not even close. Like, somebody on Reddit did the numbers and, like, Eminem's worst selling album of all time is, like, 400% better selling than MGK's best selling album of all time. So, like, the dude does not even come close to Eminem.
For me, I mean, I don't know either guy, but I feel like Eminem probably realizes some of his best work is when he's going against somebody.
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure he would pay the guy any attention otherwise.
Yeah, and I think it's a good free press move for M, because if this had been on the album, like, I would have loved. I wouldn't have loved the album, but I would have liked it more, because it's a very good track. He's got some good bars on it.
Yeah.
He kind of cuts the cheesy, sing-songy stuff that he's been doing recently and just kind of keeps it to tight flows and good lyricism that we know and love. Mm-hmm. So, good Eminem track. Next up, we have Adrianne Lenker. This track is Symbol. It's a singer for Big Thief, who... Paul, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I know Billy and I are not big fans of.
Yeah, not huge fans of.
Did you say you like their old stuff?
Old stuff better than the new stuff. The new stuff's a real snoozer,
Yeah,
but
it's a little too boring for me.
Yeah.
But this track, Symbol, is super cool.
yeah, it's
Very
not
different.
bad.
Yeah, it kind of it reminds me of Radiohead a little bit. Just in the, it's just her and an acoustic guitar, and the chord progression is like very weird and off kilter. And
If Radiohead sounded more like that, I would enjoy more Radiohead.
yes, you would. But yeah, it's a very solid track that develops in a cool way, a very unexpected way for Adrianne. I never would have expected this out
It's
of
perfect
a
for
solo
her
project.
voice.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we have Action Bronson, White Bronco, making his triumphant return off of a record label. I forget what label he was on, but he was fed up with it. And I think for good reason. His last two albums have not been amazing. So it's kind of good to see him come back to like this, not lo-fi, but just more simple.
Yeah, and it's not to say that this track is amazing, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a return to form.
Yes.
Just kind of less
Absolutely.
glossy production, more of a mixtape feel.
And I've always been curious how he's going to transition from his... I mean, he's a downright celebrity now with all of the TV shows that he does and all the cooking shit that he does on the side, almost more as his main thing than a rapper, how he was going to transition from that to being a rapper again. So we'll see if he can pull it off and do it well.
Yeah, because you hear stories about his live performances, like him kind of putting more emphasis on performer than musician.
Right.
Which sounds weird to say, but
Yeah,
you
He
know what I
puts
mean.
his emphasis on signing his cookbooks over anything.
But the people love him.
Yeah, they do. Next up, we have another good East Coast boom bap hip hop track. Michael Christmas track is called Ball. While nothing unique, certainly in the genre, I thought it was just a solid hip hop track. Dude has some good. He's a really good flow, and he rides the beat really well. It's got that nice like gospel East Coast kind of feel to it. I liked it quite a bit.
I did too. That was pretty good.
It's fun, you know. The verses aren't going to give you too much to think about.
Yeah.
But it's really solid.
Absolutely. Speaking of verses that will give you a lot to think about, I cannot wait to digest this track. This is the first time that I heard it all the way through. Petite Noir, it's track's called Beach, featuring fucking finally Danny Brown and Nukubi. Danny Brown has been kind of AWOL for a little while, taking a break. But his verse on here is nuts.
Yeah, I wanted more.
Yes. And me too.
Right?
Danny Brown on a weird track is just brilliant.
Yes.
Like
works
this is
really
what
well.
he should be doing. I think he gets depressed playing shows and people just want to hear bangers. But just hooking
this
up with a
was-
weird outfit where he can do some really thoughtful,
Yeah.
strange
It's a-
verses.
Kind of a banger in its own right. I mean, the track is obviously is Petite Noir's track. He's got this cool kind of wavering, almost gospel-like voice. Very cool production to it. And then Danny kind of comes in out of nowhere and just owns the track.
Yeah.
Totally takes it all over. Really, I wanted to hear more. Like you said, Billy. Like, it just felt like it was over before.
I know.
It was so good. Very good. Perfect hit of Danny Brown. And next we have Unknown Mortal Orchestra. Track is Hanoi 6. Unknown Mortal Orchestra, it's like psych pop group. Does some really cool, funky, kind of catchy stuff. Their last album was okay. But from that album, they had a bunch of leftover instrumental tracks. So the band decided to release them as an instrumental jazz album, kind of featuring some different instrumentation that most people wouldn't be used to. It just kind of reminded me of Bad Bad Not Good. I don't know what you guys thought about it.
Yeah, not typically something I'd go for, but I did like the chord progression for this. Thought it was pretty cool and had a good emotive feel to it.
Yeah. It definitely feels like a not like an active listening experience. I mean, I could be wrong. That album is I don't know how many tracks, but this track in particular felt kind of just like grooving kind of music.
I liked it. I get what you mean about the Bad Bad Not Good. It makes me wish there was some actual Bad Bad Not Good to listen to.
Well, buddy, do I have some good news?
Oh, you got me?
Oh, what?
I do. While not breaking this news, I found it right before we started recording. Bad Bad Not Good and Little Dragon have released a track from Bad Bad Not Good's last studio session. Track's called Tried. Just excellent Bad Bad Not Good instrumentation as usual. Paul, you liked the Little Dragon vocal feature?
I did. I liked the high falsetto and just kind of the way they're harmonizing it. Was that not kind of a strong feature in there to you?
I don't know. It's not that it was bad. I certainly think that she's talented. I think more often is the case with Bad Bad Not Good is I just want a cool instrumental. So I don't know.
And you're probably not alone in that. I don't think anybody who seeks out that band is.
Yeah.
But it was a good little hook.
Yeah.
Like it works.
And I appreciate that they're willing to do different stuff. And I think you mentioned, like, I'm kind of surprised this wasn't on the album. Like, it feels like it would fit really well.
You said it was a B-side from the last one.
Yeah. That's what the Bandcamp indicated.
And it wasn't an overly long album. I guess I'm just surprised they'd wait on it.
I don't know. Track lists are weird science that I will probably never understand. So, all right, let's jump into a new segment to kind of circumvent talking about news. We're going to talk about more cool music, and this is just a quick hop off into something I found recently. So my honorable mention for this week, Donut County soundtrack. Donut County, if you haven't heard, is a sweet little iPhone, PC, iPad game about holes that suck up things in a very satisfying way. But the main part about it that I love is the soundtrack. Just super cool, like organic instrumentation mixed with like weird, understated electronic percussion, sometimes like mouth-based percussion. Super diverse track list, has like some lo-fi hip-hop, some cool indie pop instrumentals, some like lo-fi house music is on there. Sometimes it's even cinematic, like just very, very cool. Very, very charming soundtrack. I know you guys didn't get a chance to listen to a lot of it, but what do you think of what you heard?
I agree with everything you just said. And the people can find a link to our first sponsor up in the side. Just kidding.
That would be cool, though. I'd sell Donut
Donut
County.
Holes.
I'd sell Donut County for Donut County.
No, it was good.
You'd sell out for Donut County?
I would sell out for Donut County.
No, what you sent me, I really liked.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
not fair to compare it to that guy that did the music to Transistor or any of those games.
Yeah, Darren Korb, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't on that same kind of vibe, but
No.
definitely was up there as far as that kind of game music.
Yeah, it's super, super nice and kind of breezy. So definitely check it out, even if you don't play the game. The game's cool, too. And let's jump into some new releases. Billy,
Am I up first?
you are up first.
All right. So my new release for the week, or a couple weeks since we took a week off, is My Mind Makes Noises by Pale Waves. Debut album from album from this indie pop band from Manchester.
Okay, I kind of knew there was an accent in there
Yeah, you
somewhere.
can kind of hear it in there a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
And just kind of, I mean, I feel like they've blown up over the last couple of years, and really just captured that dream pop, like hard hitting indie pop, just
Yeah, I
audience.
can see why people would like them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen them live or what made you pick them.
I have not, but they played at U-Haul recently.
Okay, because I could see like a weird cult following.
Oh, for sure. They sold out that show very quickly,
That's
and I
kinda
would be surprised if they're going like 9:30 Club size next, because I think they're blowing up pretty big. Yeah, right. And this album's pretty good. It's a nice, solid follow up to the stuff that they've been putting out over the last year or so. My one gripe with it is it's a little too long. I think it's 14 songs, which
way too long.
It's just a little too long. You can stick with 10 and be okay.
Yeah. Which that's mainly why I didn't like it, and a lot of the reasons why I didn't like the songs kind of contributed to, or rather kind of stemmed from, like, I think I would like this more if it was like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, they seem like a short, punchy, sweet kind of band.
Exactly.
I don't need an hour of material.
Yeah, and I agree. I think I would have been happy with it being a little shorter too. They could have pulled a couple songs and still had a really solid 10-song album.
Absolutely.
But the production's cool. You need to cut it. The production's cool. It's very like maximized. Like
production is surprisingly like pristine
for
a band this small. Like I was taken aback at how nice the production is, for sure.
Definitely, if you look at images of the band before you listen, not what you would expect.
Absolutely not.
They
Absolutely not.
very, very much look like your heavy-hitting goth emo.
I totally thought we were in some like bland shoegaze, but it is most definitely not that.
Yeah, it's very dream pop.
These guys, like, as the I want to phrase this in a way. This band is about hooks.
Yes,
like they do.
Absolutely,
they only do hooks.
Absolutely,
they like hooks a lot. And if this is your style of music, I could see, like I said before, I could totally see why people love this band. It makes a lot of sense. It's not for me, but the just the get in, get out, like get to the chorus. It's the best part of the song. Like that's kind of their writing style.
Yeah,
so
and I kept being surprised how good their hooks were.
Sure.
Like every song, the hook was like, oh, this is pretty good. It sounds just like the last song, but it's still pretty good.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a couple that like she sings some fucked up shit.
Right?
And it's like super sing-songy about I forget what is the You're My Honey or something.
There's a honey.
Yeah, there's a honey. Something about like I would have given you my body if like I knew you would wanted it. Or, like some shit like that. That's like, God, what the fuck? Like some like really dark stuff on here for sure.
Yeah.
And it's, people are totally into that shit nowadays. So
there's
a gangbusters for sure.
There's a honey. It's their single that they released a while ago. It's probably my favorite on the album still. The opening track 18 is good, and Noises is another good track. Related artists, kind of like Fickle Friends, Floor, The Academic, kind of like that English indie pop.
Yeah,
and
they have their own kind of like grime. It's kind of its own
exactly.
scene over there.
Yeah, so that was Pale Waves. My Mind Makes Noises.
Cool. And I have album Double Negative, artist Low. Low is a band that's been around for quite some time that I'm not super familiar with. But my interest was piqued on this album because the singles were very interesting, very weird, kind of like super fuzzed out, disintegrated, distorted kind of pop music. And needless to say, after listening to this album probably 20 times now at this point, I love it. There's a couple moments on here that are definitely feel throwaway. There's a song called The Sun, that is just kind of 3 minutes of weird fuzz noise in the background that doesn't feel necessary in any way. And there's an end. You could make an argument that the end of Dancing in Blood kind of feeds into the next song, Fly, pretty well. But there's a lot of like dead space in there. And I understand now, having listened to it a bunch of times, why they would make these artistic choices, because altogether listening to this album front to back, track list in order, kind of made me realize that like this is one of the few albums that I've listened to in a long time that really made me appreciate the artist's choice and track listing, and kind of allowing for that space and these songs to breathe, and rather than bleed into each other. It was just fucking the best part about this album. Super, super. It is a weird listen. It is not super accessible. The vocals are super, super fuzzed out. A lot of the time, not very comprehensible. It reminds me a lot of this album called The Disintegration Loops, where this guy kept a tape loop on a magnetic filter, and over time it just disintegrated until all you could hear was just skips and beeps and fuzz, and some of these tracks kind of end up that way. But there's some good, pop music on here too. Tracks later on in the track list, Always Trying to Work It Out and Dancing in Fire has some really cool vocal harmonies. They do this weird thing where they kind of leave the female vocals bare and kind of let her sing normally into a microphone, and then the male vocals are usually vocoded and distorted all to hell, and they kind of harmonize with each other, and it's super interesting. Just a very, very cool album, something that I never would have expected to love, but ended up liking quite a bit. Favorite tracks, Always Up, Always Trying to Work It Out, and Dancing in Fire. Related artists, definitely some fuzzy, dark indie pop in Sparkle Horse, Mount Eerie, and Spiritualized. And with that, let's jump into Album of the Week. Mr. Billy.
All right.
Number one. In your heart, in your mind, probably in your bed.
Oh, yeah.
The Midnight.
The Midnight. Easy choice. Easy choice.
Easy choice.
Yeah, I didn't even have to try it this week. It was wonderful. So the album is Kids by The Midnight.
Okay.
My synthwave darlings are back with a 9-song album.
Didn't we listen to an album by them not too long ago?
Yeah, Nocturnal. Oh, it's an EP that they released.
It's an EP. Okay.
Probably, I couldn't tell you when. Early this year, late last year.
I just remember it having, it was like 6 or 7 tracks. And it doesn't matter.
It was like 7.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway.
And this isn't that much different because it's really just got an opening track and an interlude in the middle. Sure. So it's basically only 7 songs as well.
Yeah, it's very, very short.
Yeah, and that's what I expected from them. After getting more familiar with their collection and the albums and EPs they put out, I expect a lot of like filler, like just vocal absent tracks,
sure,
instrumental only. I think they're still working to get that full collection to make a full album.
Yeah.
But this one really impressed me because it seemed like they had an idea in mind and they wanted to stick to a theme, much like you said with your last pick with like listening to an album that had a specific flow and theme in mind. And I think they did that with this album. It's very much a nostalgic, over the top 80s, but
and it's overtly nostalgic in a way that I kind of appreciated.
It's
like, it feels like I know that that's kind of what this genre is for, but they went for it in an earnestness that like kind of made me feel like this was intentional. They wanted the whole concept to be about being a kid.
Yes.
Whenever he grew up, which I'm assuming was the 80s. So yeah, it's
and it's not cheesy nostalgia. It's legitimate, like reminiscent, like almost sadness on looking back at like childhood, like what it was, like how times were simpler, how things have changed.
Like I don't know if I feel this way about this genre because I've never been really attached to the 80s. But there's some like news PSAs on here about like video games and how they're harmful that kind of struck me in a way that kind of reminded me of being a kid and like having to explain to my parents about what video games are. That was like very cool. Like I wasn't expecting that in a cool way.
Yeah, and I think it's like I said, it's lyrically. I always find their stuff lyrically brilliant. I really like a lot of his verses on this. It was a lot more vocal heavy than I was expecting, which was awesome. It's mostly vocals. The first track is kind of their typical synthwave, emotive instrumentation, but layered on top of it is, like you said, all these clips from the 80s about the inventions that were like taking place, the technology advancements and all this stuff coming up with computers and video games. And so it's kind of like built you into this mood, and then it gets right into Waves, which is just kind of like a here we are now, like this is the attitude of where we are in this time and how different it was from the attitude that it was back then.
Yeah, and I think my main gripe with this album is how short it was. Yeah. Like I liked the theme that they were going for. I really liked the vocal performances. I was surprised at I really liked his voice a lot. And they do a reprise in kind of like a full version of Kids. And I liked the sentiment of the track, kind of about, growing up and how he used to be afraid of the dark, and then it turns out like the monsters were there all along. Yeah. Because, just weird. Anyway, but I just feel like there wasn't enough space in between those two songs to make it feel strong. Yeah. And I totally got it towards the end because he repeats it often enough, and he does it with like a kid's chorus or something that's like it's very powerful emotionally. Yeah. I didn't feel like they earned it. Yeah. Like I need more in between to kind of flesh out that concept and to kind of pull those heartstrings a little bit more.
Absolutely. And I'll absolutely give you that. And I think they've always prematurely released albums a few tracks too short. Sure. If they took their whole collection of work that they've done and narrowed it down to like maybe 2 or 3 albums, they would have incredible work. And this is another example of that. I agree. They could have taken a little bit more time to develop a few more songs and make it a really solid 40-45 minute long album without all the filler and stuff like that, and had something really incredible. I think because they're trying so hard to break onto the scene, that they're releasing as much as they possibly can as quickly as they can, and they've got a fall tour. So I think they're trying to like just capitalize on the momentum they have. Absolutely. Which, yes, their albums are taking a hit because of it, but that doesn't make the music that they create any less magical to me.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you 100%.
But yeah, so that's my favorite tracks were Waves, the single Lost Boy. Yeah, definitely one of the best tracks they've ever written. And then that Kids reprise at the end is so good. Such a solid ending. Absolutely. We've talked about the Midnight a bunch, but any synth wave is what you could look for. Yeah.
Hey, I will give you that they're probably the best in the genre, at least for what you've exposed to us.
They do it well. They do it well.
So definitely, if you're into synthwave or anything like that, these guys are great. So my album of the week is one that I hope everyone will enjoy because this artist totally deserves it. Name is No Name. The album is Room 25. Sorry. I should, before we jump into that, Billy's pick was Kids by The Midnight. My new release was Double Negative by Low. I forgot to say that before. So anyways, Room 25 album by No Name. And the girl has done it again. Honestly, she released Telephone in 2016. One of my favorite rap albums of the year, if not one of my favorite albums in general. Just super interesting lyrics and crazy control over her flows and rhymes over this like incredibly gorgeous jazz instrumental. And just so much talent in her vocal delivery. She used to be a slam poet. And it totally shows in like the amount of rhyming schemes that she uses and near rhymes and
I did not know that, but that does make total sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, like when you hear it, you're like, that makes total sense. Just the way how much control she has over the amount of words she puts into a verse and still makes it sound impactful and interesting is just super talented. And I think she provides a really unique viewpoint that isn't really often represented in today's hip-hop landscape, especially from a female rapper, because we get your, Nicki Minaj and your Cardi B's who are trying to compete with these other, trap rappers and kind of rapping about the same stuff. And she's super open about, sex and relationships and religion and death, suicide, remembrance, and all of these crazy things, and kind of weaves them all together in a really interesting package. And just super well done. Instrumentation is incredible. I don't know who's in her backing band, but I definitely need to find out. And really good, tasteful features as well that she manages to not outclass, but definitely does not feel overtaken by them, while also allowing the features to have purpose. So definitely one of my favorite albums of this year. Very much looking forward to just kind of sitting down with a lyrics book and kind of going through, because I didn't really get a chance to look at everything. That was just in a couple listens. So favorite tracks are Ace, Blaxploitation, and Window. Related artists are Saba, Chance the Rapper, and Isaiah Rashad. And if you're curious... shit. Damn it. Album's Room 25. Artist was no name. If you're curious about that album and the other albums and singles we talked about today, there will be a playlist up on the website containing all the singles and the best tracks from this week's albums. Check us out on all the places: Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, etc., etc. Like, subscribe, leave good reviews, blah, blah, blah. Visit bliss.house, that's bliss.haus, for more content. And we'll see you soon. Maybe, possibly. Bye!